There we go. Looks like it's working. I think anyone in chat can confirm. We have audio, video. Get a little bit rusty, but welcome. So, do my quick intro. Great, thank you, Peg. Appreciate it. Hey, Melanie, great to see you. Great to see you both. Thank you. Things are coming through. All right, let's. Audio is a bit soft. See what I can do. That. Tweak it a little bit. Not in real time, so I want to do it slowly so I don't get it too crazy. Ralph, I missed you, man. How you doing? You're doing well? Alright. Let me know if the audio is still too quiet. I don't want to have to shout, but also I'm cautious not to blast anyone who's wearing headphones. Let's go with this for a little bit. Let me see if I can. Oh. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back. So, Happy New Year. I'll do my quick intro for those of you who are joining for the first time, haven't joined us before. I'm Adam Ruf. I'm waving and I see my hand on a delay in other places. So, I'm getting used to my new setup. And I am a product designer at AngelList by day. And I also created this UX design contest to help designers build out their portfolio, exercise and practice new skills, learn new tips and tricks, and have some fun and win some money for charity as well. Do some good, have some good impact. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. We've got, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half time to get through stuff. A few things. I feel like I have some, I should say a little bit about hiatus last year. So just so you know, like nothing bad happened to me last year outside of being stuck at home for COVID, but I was doing house hunting. So my free time was house hunting, buying a home, moving into a new home. So feeling settled in. We are a little bit closer to San Francisco City, which is great. Enjoying the new space. And yeah, should be settled in enough to get this going again. Hope everyone is doing well. New year, a lot of changes, right? Vaccines are getting out, things are going well, hopefully. Yeah, let's dive into it. I want to cover a bit of ground today. Thanks, Peleg, appreciate it. All right. Things I want to cover. I have to admit, a lot of this is going to be on the fly. Haven't had a lot of prep time for tonight's episode, but let's just dive in. Let's dive in with a cap of what is UX Design Contest. So here's the website. Let's see. Delay on YouTube is. Okay, cool. All right, everything's working. Let me plug the link in chat just so I start to build back some of these habits on sharing. So Contest 14 is live. It's all about visual design for this contest, how visual design can have an impact on accessibility, on usability, on, what was the other one? Had 3 things. Oh, I used up so much brain power today. It's alright, it'll come back to me. A bunch of things. I probably put it in the contest. So check it out. Drop that link in too. But I think you can find it. It's all about giving the SF Zoo website a visual design refresh. We'll check out the zoo in a little bit, the zoo's website. I wish we could go to the zoo together. We'll check out the website in just a bit. And yeah, these contests, they're pretty easy to enter. Like there's nothing you need to buy in order to participate. I listed a bunch of desired outcomes that I think are related to highly valuable skills and things that designers should think about exercising and hopefully have a lot of fun exercising. Prizes as usual, $100 for your charity. Hop on a call with me. I'm happy to answer any other questions or just find out how else I can help you through a call. And of course, you get your winning entry on the page. 18 years or older, blah, blah, blah. Contest details, you can check out all that. Entering simple, so I tried to keep the scope fairly light so people feel that it's not a huge time burden to participate. Find 3 important pages on the website that you think are going to benefit from a visual makeover. Come up with a new design language for the zoo's website. Again, you're focused on these 3 pages. This is not a scalable 10-year design system. This is just a simple design language that you can apply. Obviously, apply the design language to those pages. Test it out. Again, we'll go over this next week. Very simple. I recommend Usability Hub to do a simple test. Basically, you could just do like a preference test. Hey, which website would you prefer to use more? Right? Which one do you want to use? The new design or the old design? It can be something as simple as that, just to help get in the habit of testing and collecting data to help make decisions and also collect insights. Short case study. Again, I'll go through a pattern for this. Because it's really focused on visual designs, I think it can be super easy. Don't need to write a whole lot. Just highlight some of the design decisions and the impacts, and then get the entry in by the end of the month. That's the contest in a nutshell. Tonight, also, you might have seen, let's see, I'm going to practice this. Great image of me, I don't know why it's so. Let's. I'm doing things a little bit differently tonight, my setup. So rather than sharing my entire screen, because I upgraded to this widescreen monitor, I've got everything on one screen. So I have to send windows to the stream. So let's see. Okay, it looks like, there we go, magic. Now you should see a sketch open. And I talked about this on the YouTube event and kind of pitched this. Thought I'd structure tonight kind of around this. Good visual design starts with CRAP, C-R-A-P. So that's really what I'm going to focus on tonight. Introducing, what C-R-A-P, what's this acronym stand for, and why do I think it's so important for a good visual design. And then we'll go through and start digging into the SF Zoo website through the lens of this crappy design lens, to look for opportunities and start to use some of the design language to talk about what we're finding and seeing. So with that said, let's scroll down. All right, so I've got these acronyms, the first letter of each word here, and I'm just curious, does anyone in chat think they know maybe what some of these are? The clues that I'll give are these are fundamentally important attributes of design. And you can shout things out in chat in any order for any letter. Alternatively, oh, Kevin popped in. Kevin, you're on fire today. These aren't going to line up with the little spaces underneath. But yes, contrast. Contrast is C. We'll talk a little bit about contrast. Contrast. Examples. Wow, that's big. I suppose that's what I had my font set at. Down a little bit. Low contrast. High contrast. Position. Interesting. Position is actually, it's related to the word. It's not the exact word that I have here, but it's related. Ratio. Interesting. I think, Melanie, I think ratio has a lot to do with contrast, actually. Contrast and maybe this last one to some extent. Placement, another good guess. Let's see if I can give you a clue how many letters it is. It's P, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's a 9-letter word. It ends in Y. It ends in Y. Rhythm. That's interesting, Peleg. So when you say rhythm, it makes me think of things like vertical rhythm and the spacing of text and things. And actually, rhythm, funny enough, is related to this word. It's not rhythm, the R word that I have here, but it is relevant. I'll give everyone a few more guesses, and then I'm gonna do some revealing, and then I think you'll start to see why I say that, hey, these things are connected. Your guesses are connected. Letters I have. There. Ooh, ooh. Peleg's got some stuff here. He's got 2 bullseyes. All right, let's get these in here. Repetition. Yep. And then proximity. Excellent. Cool. So you can totally see, right? We talked. Someone said like ratio, rhythm. I think those are things closely related to repeating things, right? And in a certain order. Proximity, what was the other P one? Like position, right? It's the position, the proximity of this object to that object. So they're great. And Peleg guess affordance for A. It's not, the A that I have is not affordance. I think we can talk about how affordance is actually, and I think affordance might be that word that I was thinking of earlier that I blanked on. Accessibility, usability, affordance. Is that it? Oh, aesthetics as well. There's definitely a lot of A words. I'm just gonna go ahead and fill this one in. The A word that I have in my set of 4 attributes for good visual design are contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And I'll just run through like, what am I talking about when I say these things, right? Well, first over here, all in a big group. All right, let's free some of these things up here. I've got low contrast and high contrast. So this involves a lot of like color, right? Is one, maybe the most common type of contrast we think about, especially when we're being considerate of people's vision, right? And low vision, and we're thinking about contrast ratio to make sure that our designs and everything is accessible. There's also size contrast, right? There's many different dimensions of contrast. Contrast can use color, contrast can use size, so font sizes, object sizes, all those kind of things. Repetition, hopefully that's it can be a little straightforward. You may say like, oh, okay, I get it. So that means like if you have, you know, avatar, ooh, a kind of like egg-shaped avatar, then the next time you have an avatar, you'll use the egg shape, and maybe you put 3, you repeat the pattern, and now you have these 3 avatars. Maybe it's a testimonial or whatnot. Yep, that's definitely one aspect of repetition. There's another word that I think of when I think about repetition, and that's consistency. So another important aspect of repetition is repeating your application of a pattern, right? So for example, if let's say you have a website and you have 10 pages on the website, and on the first page links are blue. Well, on the second page, applying repetition, your links will be blue on the second page, on the third page, on the fourth page, on the fifth page, right? You're repeating something, and this is really important for consistency as well. Alignment has to do with things that I'm guessing you're probably familiar with or have heard before, right? Horizontal. I mean, we've got here. Can I screenshot this? Yeah, I can. We've got like the little alignment tools up here, and they're so small, but I'll make them bigger. Oh, and there's a little tooltip. But the way that objects align with one another, right? Left aligned, center aligned, right aligned, justified, vertical, horizontal aligned, all these different ways that we align objects together. And when we have consistent and strong alignment, meaning things are not just placed, you can kind of see here, I don't know if these are perfectly aligned, but you can start to see alignment even here, right? These 4 words are left aligned, right? These 2 boxes are, I guess you could say they're top aligned, center aligned, or bottom aligned vertically. They're aligned vertically, right? So are these 2. These are aligned as well. Something that's out of alignment, right? If you're going for a particular effect, you might apply that, right? But in general, something that is not aligned like this is going to look a lot more organic. And for most of the professional design work that we're doing outside of things that are artistic or leveraging something more organic, this is going to come in handy. The non-organic or pushing on alignment, in ways that don't follow these strict guidelines, that's going to be something that you can consider using for more aesthetics or decorations or creating kind of the mood or feeling. And then last but not least, we have proximity, which I think, let's see if we can duplicate some things here. I don't know how many duplicates I made. Not many. Proximity, we'll just do something quick here. The way that our brain leverages proximity is to help identify groups. So for example, just looking at these 4 boxes, we may say, okay, if I told you there are 2 groups and asked you to circle the groups, what are you going to circle, right? Most people will not write a circle all over it, but that going. There we go. They see these 2 groups. And the reason you're seeing 2 groups is because of proximity. These boxes are much closer together than any of these 3 boxes with this other box over here. So that's like my quick introduction to these 4 attributes that I think are really important for visual design. And as you all pointed out in chat, there are many other words, and I think they're strongly related and very similar and affected by each of these: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Any questions about any of those? Feel welcome to post them in chat. Otherwise, let's take a look. Let's dive in a little bit and take a look at the Zoo website so we can start thinking about these things: contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. Start looking for opportunities. All right, I've got my browser back. I've got Zoo's website up here. It's not secure. You need a security certificate. I'll put the Zoo's. Just know what happens. Can I move this? Zoo's link is in chat. It's sfzoo.org. So let's start looking at some things. I think what I'll do is I'll probably start taking some screenshots and pointing things out, because I don't know that there's an extension or anything where I can kind of draw on here. Ooh. Take me a minute to set up. Might not be worth it. Maybe next time. All right, let me start grabbing. I'm just going to grab a screenshot of what I've got here, because there's already a bunch of stuff going on. Paste it into a sketch. Switch over. Back and forth. And let's just take a look at this. This is the home page. This is what was shown in the dimensions that I had my browser viewport open to. This is what I was able to see about the San Francisco Zoo. So already I'm thinking about, can I flag contrast? Maybe I do. Which I had different colors. I know I can put letters. Let's make something that has high contrast. Try to pick a color that really clashes with the green, has a lot of high contrast. This looks pretty good. This stands out almost everywhere. All right, so I see contrast here, right? This lighter text on the darker background. That contrast makes it fairly easy to see. I'm noticing something interesting here, which is a strategy or a tactic to increase contrast between text and a background image. I see a shadow, right? They've applied a shadow here to help increase the contrast so that the text is more legible. It still potentially gets a little bit more difficult, right, when it's on some sort of busy image, but using that shadow really helps set it apart from the background. And the large text size helps up a lot. I'm trying to see if I see any. I'm just like glancing here. What's kind of the hardest? I'm doing a little bit of a squint test. Ooh, I actually know another thing we should look at. And one of the things that is the hardest thing for me to read on a squint test is this donate. All right, we've got some of these like busy backgrounds, much smaller text. So that's something else that stands out. I'll show one. Have the extension, do I? All right, I need to update my extensions for this browser profile. There's a plugin or an extension that I made that will allow you to see a web page in black and white, and that's something that we can actually just do that in Sketch as well. So when you have a screenshot or a bitmap image, you can come into color adjust. I'm actually going to duplicate it just so we can compare. I'll go to color adjust and drop the saturation all the way down. Transforming the screenshot or the design into grayscale can be really helpful for contrast because it takes away all of the color and really lets you see things, obviously in the grayscale where issues often bubble up. You can often see the issues easier once you remove the color. Everything's on an even footing. So we can see, potentially over here with the color, these particular backgrounds seem fairly even and consistent, maybe repetitive in terms of their saturation and brightness and different qualities of the color. But when we strip out the saturation, when we desaturate everything, to me at least, this thing that I flagged earlier, this donate, looks quite a bit lighter. Like I can now see how much darker this reservations is. And then maybe the calendar one, and then the member one, and then the donate one. So it feels like much more of a gradient scale of contrast. All right, what else is going on here? Other letters that we can talk about. So we've got repetition, right? What kinds of things can we see repeated? For one, we've got these buttons here, right? Basically, it's repeating a pattern. While all the patterns are not the same and identical, it is repeating a pattern of, it's got some sort of animal life, organic pattern behind this all caps text. Let's see, hey RJ, welcome. Kevin's pointing out alignment and then nav bar. Yep, that's great. Let's add that here. Right, so we can see all of these things, each of these things has, I mean, there's a bunch of alignment going on here, right? Like within box, right? Within the background, this kind of green bar, we've got some alignment. It feels kind of optically center aligned. And then we've also got the alignment between the repeated items, right? We've got this consistent pattern of all caps, major topic with some subtext below it. We've got alignment, which looks like a vertical center alignment with this little caret that's peeking out here, right? And this is all repeated. So we've got all kinds of stuff going on there. Oh, RJ's Rajan. Welcome. So I am, where am I located? I'm right below San Francisco. So I'm as close to San Francisco as you can get without being in the city. And that's a move kind of across the bay for me. Before I was in the East Bay, kind of halfway between Oakland and San Jose. Yeah, so much closer to the coast. And so a little bit of a weather change as well. Navigation arrows, pointing out navigation arrows, this like red-green. I'll comment on that. I think that's a really good one, Peleg, that you pointed out. Especially because the most common form of color blindness is red-green. And let's see. See if I can get a colorblind simulation running. What happened? Artboard. Oh, I need an artboard. Hang on. Let's wrap this up neatly. Okay, cool. Now that I've got this in the artboard, I think I can. Great, so here we've got the simulation. Colorblind type. Protanopia is the, I believe, is the one that's the most common one. If we look, we'll see that I mean, we're zoomed in a lot. Maybe I shouldn't zoom in so much, because if you zoom in and make things larger enough, that is a strategy to address some of the contrast issues. I'm going to check in the other ones as well. Yeah, so you can start to see how close those colors are for someone with the red-green color blindness. Start to blend together. Done. That. Alignment with buttons, larger cards below. Kevin's pointing out a bunch of stuff. Logo are left line. Kind of wish the hero text was aligned the same too. Interesting. Yeah. So if you're looking at, one of the tests or simple exercises you can do for alignment is, maybe we'll do it on the grayscale version. Something that I think Kevin's pointing out is, how are things vertically aligned? So I know I made this oversized, and you can make this smaller, but basically if you start looking and seeing like where are things lined up, so it looks like there's fairly strong left alignment here for these buttons, for some of the cards, the logo, the text at the top. That's great, but yeah, there's a missed opportunity, right? The SF Zoo and Gardens is not aligned. Similarly, looking over here, I'm guessing, oh, interesting, so we've got, again, like opportunity gap. And maybe there's a fixed amount of space. Maybe this search icon, right, actually has kind of a button and padding around it. So maybe that is kind of flush to the edge. But yeah, definitely, I don't even see the little carrots when I make it grayscale. It's interesting. So doing this vertically or horizontally, easy ways just to like scan through, even just like dragging it and looking at things. How are things lining up? There's not a ton of stuff here, so I think the edges are probably the most important thing here. But you could also do that. Also do that other direction as well, and make sure that things line up. Like, how does this work? Are these aligned to anything? Is the logo aligned? Not really center aligned to this content. Same here. We've got this text up here, right? We've got text on the left. Then the hours are kind of floating up here, centered, vertically centered with the button and the search. So opportunities to clean up or strengthen the alignment by finding groups of things and aligning them. That's going to help it look a lot cleaner. All right, Ralph's asking about the hero section in general. It seems they don't explain what the website is about. No clear CTA, although there is one in the upper nav. Yeah, I think this is a big thing. I'm glad, Ralph, that you're pointing that out. I'm going to switch back to the website really quickly so we can talk a little bit about that. Oh, I wish I could show this at different resolutions, but it's going to totally mess up the streaming because I have this very specific window size that I'm sharing. I mean, you've got things like, it's kind of interesting, right? You have the major, I guess, calls to action up here in something that I think most people think about this as like, okay, this is your navigation, and it is. They're using language, at least here, like plan your visit, right? It's basically like, come get it. And actually, I'm ignoring this high contrast button at the top, tickets and reservations. So if you're squinting and you're looking at the highest contrast thing on the page, I guess it's got a little bit of competition, right, with this great gorilla here. I think that's potentially a challenge because our brains are programmed to kind of value or focus on faces above pretty much anything else. So if you're competing with words or boxes and faces, like faces are going to win. Faces, food, right? These things that are, programmed in our older parts of our brain to recognize and kind of focus on and latch onto. That's a little bit of a conflict. So yeah, it's definitely not, Ralph, like a typical, maybe more of like a retail or business where you've got like a SaaS business where you've got a description, SF Zoo and Gardens, we have 100 animals here or something, come check us out, with like a really clear call to action, get a ticket or donate, or things like that. So yeah, we've got stuff spread out and about. So as part of like thinking about improving the visual language on the page, doing things like exploring alternate ways of presenting those CTAs or helping people focus versus spreading out all over the place is definitely something that you could do as part of this contest as well. I hope I addressed that. I think, there's definitely a lot going on here. The gorilla is pulling everything. We've got these animals that just kind of make, at least for me, it makes me want to scroll. Like, I'm seeing cool animals. Oh, there's a penguin video. There's a lot of fun stuff on this site, right? And I think that's one of the cool things about this particular contest, because you can use cool animal imagery and a lot of fun content that the zoo might have as you're thinking about how to elevate the visual language. Kevin is pointing out, looking through the site, it shows eventually the zoo is closed because of COVID, only taking reservations. Like when sites have updated COVID information right away to set expectations. Yeah, right. We get this SF Zoo temporarily closed. That would be a great entry point to some of that information. Yeah. Reopening policies. Maybe this is where they talk about it, right? So connecting with this information. Tickets purchased in advance can be rescheduled. Safety guidelines. There's all this good stuff. Especially, once it is open, you definitely want to highlight that. If someone comes today and sees the zoo is closed, and in 3 weeks, more people are vaccinated, and maybe we see there's not so much pressure at the hospitals and the ICUs, and we're like, all right, we can start letting people in who have been vaccinated, for example. Great. Yep, I think that's very smart thinking and making sure that people feel confident about whether your business is open, what you can do, or honestly, if this was me, so I get they're kind of pushing reservations. They're still pushing reservations, basically saying like, hey, can you even make a reservation? I don't know how you could if there's nothing available. Ooh. So there's a lot of this is actually maybe the more interesting place to start looking at visuals. I'm actually gonna screenshot this one. We got to get this page. But I guess they go. I don't know what circle means. A playground reservation? I can't do anything. I can't click on these things. Bizarre. Yeah, it looks like it only goes out so far. They're basically saying, hey, you can't click on any of these other things because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't even know why you can click on any of these. That's confusing. Rajan says, curious to know if the goal isn't as much increasing KPI, but more so improving overall visual experience. Yeah, exactly. So let's go back to the contest page, kind of clarify some of these details. So maybe a good place to look at is the judging criteria, right? So, and I didn't do this before, and maybe that was a mistake to kind of clarify this. So by and far, like this exercise in this contest is about thinking about these design principles, different visual design principles, and applying them to a refresh. So by far, this is the most highly weighted criteria or criterion. The others are highly related, again, to how you're applying those visual design. How have you impacted accessibility, right? Have you found areas where maybe the contrast is insufficient and would make it difficult? Or maybe you've designed in tools that help people access a high contrast mode or to increase font sizes. There's a lot of different strategies and tactics you could use, but definitely thinking about that accessibility impact. Then we've got like usability impact, things like affordances that folks in chat mentioned earlier, right? Calling out things like For me, it would be even like this. Like, if these things were clickable, and I'm guessing that maybe they are at some time, but I get zero feedback mousing over, right? Things like hover states, cursor changes. Can I tab through? So as I'm tabbing through, looking at these different focus states. So this is great that I can tab through for accessibility. It's got high contrast, so that's great. And at the same time, it's not like super aesthetically pleasing, right? It's very, I don't know, early PowerPoint kind of aesthetic. You've got like odd things. Let me see if I can show that again. Where the focus box has a bunch of space. There are like gaps. It's like, wait a minute, what's the focus on? There's so many things here. Why can I even focus on this? I see there's something at there's like a little tooltip even. Complementary content region. Okay, don't know what that means. Press enter to the next to what the next region to go to. Press shift enter to go to the previous region. So this is another good one to capture. All right, got a few screenshots. Let's see, am I getting different states? I mean, I get a cursor change, right? That's it. There's really an opportunity to provide better visual affordances and feedback. There's weird aesthetics, right? Like a green button with an orange shadow. That's interesting. I mean, if it has like an orange light around it, that might work. But there's a lot of things we can think about. I mean, the zoo is all about nature, so incorporating things that we see in nature, like visual effects and colors and shadows and physics and all of these ways that we experience the world, could definitely be applied here. All right, back to finishing up the judging criteria. Aesthetics, right? This is both highly subjective, but also should be fairly obvious. If you look at things that are, you know, if you see some, maybe we can find another zoo actually. I'm trying to think of like, I think San Diego Zoo, to me, stands out as like a zoo that has had a lot of investment or money. I mean, they're one of the zoos that had pandas, which cost like $1 million a year for one panda or something like that for loan. So I'm just going to take a peek at that site and just see if anything is different. So, I mean, there's definitely some differences. We need to look at what's a really great, like, what museum has a really great website? New York Museum of Natural History, American Museum of Natural History. What is this website like? This is very focused on getting tickets. Wow, is there any? Oh, there's like nothing else. But still, you can tell there's definitely elements of this that feel, you know, more polished, or a design language that's like a little bit more modern and clean. Look at the alignment of different things. Oh, here we go. Look at this kind of thing. There's like animated effects, and we've got very much like a media kind of presence, a lot of interesting illustrations and imagery, right? Things flying in from space. To me, I mean, just glancing at it, right, and comparing this with the SF Zoo website, I'll go back to the homepage. While the SF Zoo site has, you know, sections and things that are like, you know, put it in the 2000s. I don't think this was a website that was designed in the late 90s, but it's definitely has qualities and things that you can point out that make it feel a little bit more dated than this museum page, for example. Oh my goodness, there we go. Here's something that I'm forgetting to do. So I've been showing the sketch. Thanks, Kevin. I just realized it. It's gonna take me some getting used to remember that when I switch tabs, when I switch between windows, I need to update what you guys are seeing, and I apologize for that. I'll scan through. This is the museum site that I'm talking about, and now all the animations have loaded, so you can't see them. So I'll go through it again. You got like some little animations there, more animation. Right, you've got hover states. Things feel more interactive and like interesting and exciting to explore. That the zoo is just feels a little bit more dated. Right, you've got a lot of things, kind of a hodgepodge of things on the page. I mean, there's some consistency in like these orange buttons, but then you've got this huge orange block that it's competing with as well. So it's like, a lot of stuff going on. Tweets, and probably just a very like simple default Twitter embed versus maybe, you know, highlighting some curated tweets that might be a little bit more effective. Right? I'm guessing, oh, here's a big thing. You might not know just by looking at it, but this is text on image. So that's a big concern for accessibility, and also for aesthetics, right? Because this text is an image, it's not being rendered as vectors through the browser. So we get this kind of pixelated look that's not as clean. And we also, let's say this had some, zoo is now closed. I want to copy this text. Oh, there's no way to copy the text. I can do it on the title here. So we've got that. So we've got evidence of like using text over an image, but it's not consistent. The pattern isn't repeated. We're even seeing some things where some things have shadows behind them, some don't. Yeah, a lot of stuff. All right, just trying to catch up on chat. Let's see here. Rajan is commenting, lots of potential for the zoo website. I think so. Ralph thinks one goal can be to make it more engaging. Exactly. So there's a lot of opportunity to leverage visual design and visual decisions to make the site more engaging and compelling. 100% agree. Yeah, as far as reducing confusion, you're right. It takes a little bit more looking. Let's put some of those. I'm gonna get those screenshots in next, and maybe we can start picking at a few things. Raj says typography itself. Yeah, even thinking about the typography. Let's look at what they're using. Anyone want to guess on what the font is? I already revealed it. Sorry, it wasn't as far down as I thought. So we've got Montserrat. That's interesting. I feel that's like a slightly trendy font. That's actually one I use for my own website. And then sans serif. So very clean, single font. Maybe different than what's San Diego Zoo using? Oh, and now I just lost the thing I'm selecting. Athletics Black. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that font before, so it looks like maybe a special font that they're looking at using. I can also see like this rounded font, right? And then this straight font. So there's different qualities. So mixing and pairing fonts together. Another way to create contrast, right? Creating contrast between the text, not just size, not just color, but you can look at incorporating different fonts as well that play with each other. Peleg, are you commenting about this G? It kind of looks like it lost its little friend that we commonly see sticking out. Raj asks, why did you stop live streaming on Twitch and switch to YouTube? Miss fun emojis. We can try doing some stuff on Twitch as well. My big thing for me was like getting to know people, and also a huge factor in decision making is once I'm done streaming on YouTube right now, the video is there, like it's done. For Twitch, I have to like go and do work to like save the video, make sure that it hangs around, upload it. It's like it's just more work. And we get people with like real names. I can like learn who real people are. It just feel, I think there's a different vibe in chat as well, when people are like showing up as themselves versus like some, you know, hiding behind different usernames. Just a little bit different vibe. YouTube also has a much larger audience of folks who are looking for this kind of content, like design related content. That it, you know, I think Twitch has some folks over there. Obviously, a lot of you like I met on Twitch, and I'm super grateful for that and thankful for that. But in far, it's not like the main thing that people are showing up for. So audience building is a little bit harder. Ralph's calling out a couple of font. Let's check out this Bronx Zoo that he mentioned. And Kevin's saying, favorite visual part of the home screen is the bottom part with the orange can with the toucan and the penguins. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, here's the Bronx Zoo. Is this the font you're talking about, Ralph? I wonder if it's this one. Let's inspect it. Yeah, Brandon Grotesque. That is really cool. It's it looks like it's really nice for this kind of headline font. It's not completely rounded, such that it looks, you know, kind of childish or kind of tapping into really like youthful energy that you see in font families that are completely rounded. Yeah, that's a cool one. I'm gonna keep this one in mind. I wonder if they use it in other places too. Then we've got like this very sharp. It's interesting. They've got this contrast with this very sharp font as well. Huh. Which is also the same font. But wait a minute. There's no N here. Oops. I just clicked on something. I see. It's at smaller resolution, it looks a lot sharper than it is. When it's just at the resolution that we're looking at. Once it gets larger and larger, you can actually see, you know, we've got some rounded elements to them as well. That's interesting. Yeah, I like it. It's very kind of geometric. Seems to have like decent kerning out of the box. Space between, or leading. Leading is between rows, kerning is between characters. The kerning, space between the characters. It's good. All right, let's grab, take a few screenshots for inspiration as well. So I'm actually gonna let's do some scrolling screenshots so we can get. I'm going to do that with the target site as well. Wait until it's done processing. Yeah, I got to agree with Kevin. I think some of the strongest visual design on this page are the things that really leverage the animals in interesting ways. I think, you know, there's opportunities for overlap that's missing. So I think something really nice, like the way that this T-Rex skeleton overlaps, is not just like sitting in the white area. They didn't bring the blue area way up to cover it, but it's creating this visual interest by standing outside and kind of breaking over that barrier, which kind of helps create a bridge or a path between these sections. I think this kind of strategy could be applied in these situations as well. For example, if the bird was larger, right, and there was more space up top, this could actually be peeking up over the orange, right? Slightly, just to, again, kind of, you know, I think creating that zoo feel, and that, you know, you can leverage the visual language and the aesthetics and the design decisions that you're making to bring some of that zoo feel, right? It's not that this bird is in a box. No, you can like see this bird outside, and you can see it in its habitat. So I think there's those. I'm trying to look for any. Yeah, it looks like almost everything is in a box. So sometimes breaking out of boxes is a really easy way to create some of that visual interest. All right. I forgot. Did I take a screenshot of this? This is something else that I'm gonna have to get back in the habit of, is multitasking, like switching between different things. Okay, cool. So we've got some. All right, let me grab this one too. I know this is it's not a zoo, but you don't have to have everything be the same type of like business or company or website as you're looking for inspiration. I'm trying to think of what are some other really interesting animal focused things. I mean, it could be charities, right? Like worldwildlife.org, like Discovery Channel Plus, maybe WWF, just very focused on like media. That's interesting. Go into wildlife, carousels. Even this site, right? The kind of the cleanliness and some of the repetition and ways that we're seeing alignment, as well as like visual treatments, right? We've got some interesting like drop shadows. We've got these little lines. Here's an example of overlap, right? There's an image, and then you've got like this little card sitting on top of it, so that everything is not just a box. All right, we've got a few things. Let me start posting some of these things. Go any further. The inspiration one. I just created a few. I just stubbed out some pages. How are we doing on time? Whoa, we've been here almost an hour. Is that correct? Dang, time flies, huh? One of the things that I wanted to practice and promote is the practice of setting time boxes. So I don't think I've done that yet. So we might look at setting a time box shortly, so that we can just kind of show how that works and helps create a little fire and motivation. All right, motivation. Same screenshot. Let's take let's time box this. So we've got a few screenshots from the zoo. I'm not sure that these are the 3 pages that I would pick. So I'm curious to explore the zoo site a little bit more. Oh, and I forgot to switch it to Sketch as I was pasting all that stuff. All right, you didn't miss much. me pasting things. I'll try to remember to switch back. All right, while we're in the browser now, so that I can be conscientious of it, let's go through the website. I encourage everyone, if they have easy access to this website right now, to kind of poke around, see if you can find any other pages that you know stand out as benefiting from some visual design refresh. Hey Rajan, sweet dreams, get some good restful sleep. Thanks for dropping in. Hope to see you again soon. All right, I'm gonna look at, what am I gonna look at? Let's look at a ticket and hours page. That seems like something that is commonly used. And we've got some, we've got some stuff going on here. We've got some visual hierarchy created with the contrast, right? The different size of text. We've got links called out with some contrasting text colors. We've got bold text. We've got these patterns, this repeated pattern of, it's kind of like a really simple table, like a 2-column table with zebra striping, maybe very appropriate for a zoo website to use zebra striping in their table. We've got just this, I guess, picture of the zoo. It's kind of, I guess, maybe a little odd because there's no animals jumping out. There's not even really any people jumping out at me. I mean, when I first glance at this, to me, it's like the zoo is completely empty and we're taking a scenic shot of a zoo with no animals. But actually, there's, there are people in the scene if you zoom in. Kind of an odd picture. Oh, maybe this picture is supposed to be related to this, like, now closed. Maybe doing something a little bit more special than that. Opportunity, like animal and a mask. I don't know. Maybe a picture of a bat. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could be done with this page, as well as giving things a little bit more space. Like, one of the things I'm noticing with this page is the information density. It's quite dense. The spacing is kind of tight. Like, San Francisco City Pass is nearly as close to the text below as it is to the text above. So again, how can we use proximity to create contrast and help us discern chunks of information? So I'm gonna grab this page. I think this is an interesting one. There's also opportunity, any page where we're seeing a lot of text and not a lot of compelling imagery or images is obviously going to be one with low-hanging fruit. I mean, this is the zoo. There's cool stuff that we can be showing here to get people excited, or just make this page a little bit more fun and get people excited. It's like, if you're just looking at text and looking at prices, there's a lot of things that could go through your mind. It's kind of expensive, but if you had something on here, it's like, oh, look at all these cool things I can see and do. This is actually really cheap. And then I want to check out the animals page. I think this is probably another one that could be very interesting to tackle. So here's, oh, there's definitely, I mean, look at this. We have like these little simple colored boxes with silhouettes of amphibians, birds, invertebrates, mammals, reptiles. Cool that they're here. I guess they're kind of in alphabetical order. A to Z, it looks like. There's some alignment differences, right? We've got like text kind of at slightly different spots and these silhouettes at slightly different positions that, while the boxes are clean and aligned, the contents inside look a little off. But again, perfect opportunity to be like incorporating imagery. This one feels like a good page to capture as well. I didn't say how long I set this time box for, did I? All right, let's take 2 more minutes to find pages. That's how a time box is supposed to work. Ooh, I scrolled through that. Oh, look at this. So here's, oh man, this is so big. Let's see, I don't think I'm gonna be able to capture this while scrolling. Let me just get this whole screen. obviously interesting opportunities to be doing when we're looking at this navigation. I mean, we're getting into animals with just text. Right sidebar. Melanie's calling out the right sidebar for exhibits. Where's exhibits? Is it this? Maybe this is what Melanie's referring to. I think we hit on the same thing. Yep, definitely. Yeah, layout gets a little bit tight. Even thinking about how do you what are some visually interesting things you can do with these different sections, right? Like fascinating facts. To me, that's like, oh wow, that's like the little bonus, like cool trivia. Like how do you set that apart from some of the physical characteristics? Even thinking about visually, as people are scanning through here, is there a better way to display this information? Like, could this be split up into bullets, for example? And I think I'm at time for finding pages. So I found a bunch. Let me remember to transition. There we go. Okay, now we're looking at sketch for a few more minutes. I'm gonna paste in some of those screenshots that I captured. Another thing to do, just as I'm noticing that I'm kind of zoomed out in my design tool here, is that zooming out can actually be a way to start looking at things and seeing things, right? When I'm really zoomed in and looking at something, it may be more difficult. So it's like, ooh, alignment looks really strong and clean here, right? And then as I'm zooming out, I see, oh wait, there's this ad that's kind of over here. There's this image that, like, I don't know, maybe it lines up. But again, you start to see the shape of the white space or the negative space around things is often a clue to some of these alignment things, as well as just like looking out, seeing like, what are the high contrast things on this page? The image, this orange button, that orange button, this ad, that orange button. Are those the most important things on the page? And thinking about how we emphasize some of those things. Even to thinking things like, I don't know, this might be, I don't know, what do you think, chat? To me, placing a skyline at the bottom of the page feels odd to me. There's just, it's not to say that you can't create contrast or it's not interesting to see the San Francisco Zoo sign, but for me, there's just something about the fact that I'm processing this as a sky that's not at the top, like where I'm used to seeing sky. All right, I got that one posted. Let me paste this next one. It's also just a color that doesn't seem to be used a whole lot. This kind of like blue gradient, or these blues. That might also be what I'm picking up. All right, so we've got a handful of different screenshots. We've talked about a whole bunch of different things. We pointed out some of the contrast things, some repetition. We've talked a little bit about alignment, proximity as well, like things being too close, hard to see groups or gaps in the information. And then a lot of our conversation in chat has been around aesthetics, so thinking about fonts and colors and imagery, right, to really level up the SF Zoo website experience. So the next stream that I have planned, I think, is going to be Tuesday next week. Just thinking about a little bit in advance, tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, and that's really when I want to start getting into the visuals language, creating a style guide, thinking about how we can make decisions that will impact accessibility, usability, and the aesthetics. So looking at things like buttons, typography, links, imagery, cards, some of those types of patterns, even maybe going into some of the niche things like a tweet or an animal page is something I'd like to spend time on and discuss how these different decisions on the visual layer really have an impact on, you know, those very important aspects of a web experience. All right, let's switch back. I'm gonna practice this. It's a good exercise. Let me switch back to my browser because I see Peleg dropping a link and I want to check it out. So okay, back to the browser. What is he saying about ole.ca? Sky on the footer looks weird. Depends on how it's done. Yeah, like here's an example of sky. Does this one have sky in the footer as well? I'm curious to scroll down. Oh, that's interesting. It does, but it's like, it's such a large section, right? I mean, this is almost, it almost feels like something has stopped here. Like this is a little history of a decade. It's the Decade Club, and that's its own like little story. And then we've got this huge section that combines this really large image. If it was just this, right? Let's say the web page stopped right here. To me, that might feel awkward. That's a little bit closer to like what I'm picking up on the zoo. But yeah, I think this is done really nicely. And we do end, right? We end at kind of the bottom, what our mind sees as the bottom of this photograph. And then the footer is just, you know, high contrast, dark, really set back. Yeah, this is a very like visually interesting website. We've got a lot of interesting photography used, a lot of textures involved. I'm gonna bring you to this lodge. British Columbia's fishing destination for trophy salmon and halibut. Guessing where you can like dock, you can stock up. I don't know if they have a restaurant or not. Don't see anything about it. The store, the activities. Fishing lodge. I guess it's a place you stay. A lodge is a place you stay, so it probably has like a restaurant in the lodge. Contrast is off too. Get this white text. Yep. So thinking about contrast, right? When you have something that has this kind of gradient, you have to be careful because in this darker area, you're going to have higher contrast and you're going to have lower contrast to a point where it might not even be that safe to be putting text like that. Exactly. All right, gang. This was super fun. I can hang out for a little bit longer. I'm kind of done. I think I've gone through kind of all the content and the setting up of the project and going through the website and capturing some screenshots that I need to do for the next time. So if there's anything else you want to talk about the contest or the SF Zoo, or if there's just anything you want to, questions on your mind or things you want to share, I'm happy to just like spend a few more minutes just hanging out. I'm actually going through now at the contest page, you know, thinking about some of the decisions that I've made for different things for contrast. That we've been talking about all this stuff. Something that I feel like it's kind of a nit, but something I haven't perfected yet in this design and has opportunity is the vertical rhythm and the spacing. So to me, it feels like there's a lot more space kind of around this top section than the bottom, and I don't know, it just looks a little bit off in terms of balance. It's close enough. Like, I don't think it's a huge problem. I also spent a lot of time thinking about what I want to do with links. I went from like darker links to like colorful links to this more a very, very subtle links. Right, there's some contrast in lower contrast color and then underline to suggest the link. I don't know, there's a lot you can do. I guess this is one of my first projects where I incorporate a background color to the link as well. So it's almost turning them into like almost like buttons. What other things I dealt with? Oh, making a decision about how to center this footer. Like, do I center it underneath this entire content or just this panel that's scrolling? Ultimately, I decided just to put it under this column. Ralph's got a question about interviews. Yes, sometimes in an interview they ask, what's an example of great design? Should you focus on one specific aspect of a product or be more open? I think that's a really interesting question. And before I provide my take on that, I have a question for you, Ralph. So I'm going to follow up your question with a question. Why do you think an interviewer might ask you about an example of great design? What do you think the motivation is for the questions? Because I think this is one of the key parts about doing well on an interview is being able to empathize and understand where the interviewers are coming from and why they might ask that question. I personally, in our interviews, we're hiring, by the way, product designers. I should do a quick plug, right? My team at AngelList Venture, we're hiring. Hit me up if it's something you think you're interested in. I'll have to be better prepared and drop links and better plugs next time. And Ralph answers, I think they want to know if you know why something works. Interesting. Got it. So that's really, I think you're probably right, Ralph. I think the reason they ask you for an example first is not that they really care what the answer to that first question is, but because they want to ask follow-up questions, right? They want to understand the why. What's an example of great design? And I might come back to that with asking them, if they have something more specific. Are they looking for a software product or a physical product or a service experience? I mean, there's so many aspects of design. I think that's one of the really tricky things about design is it's used to cover everything from interior design to industrial design to graphic design to UX UI design / product design, which is UX UI kind of end to end. So number one, I would ask a clarifying question just to make sure I'm on the same page and I know kind of what area they're thinking about. And then the way that I think I would think about it first is I would start thinking about what are the things I use the most and that I enjoy using or I look forward to going back to. or things that stand out that haven't been annoying. They've just been really easy. So for me, that's gonna be like something that I'm thinking about. It might be a more challenging answer, but when I think about good design from a website experience, some things that come to mind for me are any website where I have set up a recurring payment, like a bill pay, like I'm paying a bill, and I just pay it each month and it automatically deducts money, and I never have to worry about it. Like, I don't worry that my power is going to go off because I have auto payment set up, and I just know it's going to work. And they even let me put in a limit, so I can, if something crazy were to happen, I'm not gonna suffer any financial damage. Oops, I need to get back to go. I don't know, Ralph. What do you think? Was that helpful at all? And Tina, welcome. For the Zoo Challenge, do you expect to see contents or components in a page getting moved around, or just a visual upgrade of the page where components stay where they are? That's a great question. The freedom is totally up to you. I don't think that we should feel locked in, right? It's effectively more than reskinning it. You could do that, and that might actually be a really interesting exercise to see like how much you can do by keeping all of the skeleton and bones in place and literally just changing the visual. But I'm definitely not limiting things to that, because there may be new patterns and things that you want to explore that are different. So I think I would encourage people to do whatever they feel comfortable with, and how much time they want to spend on it, right? So totally open. Again, going back to like the criteria, right? There's no requirements baked in, or nothing in the criteria around, maintaining the exact same composition or content of the page, right? It's really about thinking about applying the visual design principles and the impacts of those, right? The impact of accessibility, the impact on usability, the impact on aesthetics. So, I mean, this is what, 30, 50, 70, 80? I mean, 80% of it is basically just thinking about what are these important visual design principles, some of the things we talked about, the contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity, as well as, many, many more. Applying those to the site. And then we've got just a little bit of judging, like, did you test it? I mean, testing can be as simple as putting one image, a screenshot of the zoo, screenshot of your image, ask people, which one do you want to use? What do you like better? This one's like super simple. These are like free points, basically. And then the short case study, again, this is going to be very easy. This is going to be highlighting design decisions. There's not a lot of, it's kind of like before and after comparison with really short blurbs of like why you did something or what the impact is. Ralph's helping me out, says, yep. Totally feel free to move around. I think when I start working on some of this next week in the stream, I will try to reuse as much of the content that makes sense to me, right? So where I can, I'll reuse content. I might think about different ways of displaying it. For example, for me, this section right here, with these cards, conservation, camps and classes, host a party, become a member, stands out to me for a few things. Like, one, it looks a little bit dated. The type of shadows used even feel like older and less modern. We've got, this card that's longer, so we've got a little bit of like an alignment issue that doesn't fit really neatly together. So those are kind of things where I might look at keeping the content, but thinking about a different way of of displaying that information. Melanie's focus is accessibility. Interesting. So it sounds like Melanie would approach the question from accessibility and usability, right? Oh, I think I got it. Melanie is referring to Ralph's question, right? About the what's good design. So yeah, I think that's a really smart strategy as well. So Melanie, like Melanie's saying, you could basically share your criteria. It's like, well, something that I really focus on a lot is accessibility and usability. So something that is accessible and people can use it regardless of any disability, and that it's very easy to use. It's intuitive. People don't need to Google to find out how to do something. They don't need to write an email to someone to ask for help. They can figure it out on their own, and they have high confidence as they're using the website or app. So yeah, starting and leading with those kind of criteria or what you're going to use to measure it is also a great strategy. Yep, and I think she also mentioned it's really smart to be thoughtful about what the role is, right? So you also have to be thinking about, what is this role? What do they need? What are they looking for? How does this role define good design? Definitely a little bit of thinking about that as well. Alrighty, I think we're right about at time. Again, I didn't know if anyone was going to show up, honestly, because it's been so long since I've done this. It was a long, really busy year for me last year. I'm super happy to see everyone. I'm glad. Looks like people are doing well. Glad to spend the time with you this evening. And yeah, I'll update YouTube in the next few days to have the plug for the next session. I will tweet it out as well. So if it's convenient for you and you have interest, would love to see you in chat again and work on this a little bit more, talk through it. Until then, stay safe, wear a mask, be safe, and happy designing. See y'all next week. Bye.